After being reminded of the events from the previous episode, we join the crew of Voyager, well, the former crew of Voyager now I guess, as they explore the surface of the planet they've been abandoned on. While Janeway makes a camp, Neelix is telling Traitor's mate to desecrate the remains of the native pre-warp humanoid species, in case we need to use their bones to kill some of them later. That places the death of the Prime Directive in this episode, and this season, at a swift 3 minutes and 10 seconds, which is impressive even for Voyager. The sandworms we saw in the cave at the end of the last episode seem unimpressed with this turn of events, and we hear Traitor's mate scream, then disappear. Traitor's mate isn't the only one having a bad day, as Paris is in a really fucked up shuttle that's on the receiving end of some Kazon pooping. Paris proves that he's the best pilot in Starfleet with the genius maneuver of using the brakes. After destroying the ship and killing the crew, he proves his Starfleet commitment to the sanctity of life by making a self-satisfied one-liner, because Tom Paris is a dick. Back on the crew's new home, Janeway is being shown the tattered uniform of Traitor's mate. No remains were found, so he's either been eaten or currently has his bollocks out. Oh, and there's the slight problem of a complete lack of edible vegetation, which seems odd given that we've seen a native humanoid species, but let's see where this is going. Janeway looks under some rocks and finds space maggots, so I guess we're all dining on mini gugh tonight. Up on the USS Kazon, Seska is visiting the Doctor. After explaining the change of command to him, he tells her that his programming to provide medical attention does not restrict him to Starfleet personnel. We give her baby a quick check and he says everything is fine, prompting Seska to mention that Chakotay will be pleased. He probably would be, if the child was his. You see, the DNA fuckery that Seska performed was a failure. The child's father is Seska's boyfriend, Kazon Boss. A point to Martha Hackett here for how well she plays disappointment, mixed with discretion, and another 10 points for all the times I didn't mention what a good job she did of being a duplicitous shit. We love a good baddie. She leaves and dismisses the Doctor, but he's had control of that for a while now. Actually, Janeway offered it to him before Seska left, now that I think about it, and he brings himself back. After a little bit of a panicked flap, he begins to assess his options by asking the computer for a crew complement, namely 89 Kazon and 1 Betazoid. We give Suda a call and ask him to get to sickbay, then the doc removes all record of his presence using a medical override which, well, I don't see a great reason why a doctor would need to have that power, but we'll let it go. Down on the planet, Kim and B'Elanna return with space eggs and space cucumbers, respectively. While Tuvok makes weapons, Chakotay is unsuccessfully trying to start a fire. That is, until he thinks of something to use as kindling. Chakotay impresses himself by making it work, and he's not the only one with an interest in his progress. Neelix wanders off to fetch some rocks for the fire, saying they'll help to reflect heat. Incidentally, kids, if you ever want to do this for your own campfire to create a firebreak, don't use wet rocks or porous rocks such as sandstone. Some rocks can explode when heated, and the leading theory is it's because of the water trapped within them turning to steam and expanding. Anyway, Kez follows him shortly after to tell him not to leave the camp. Of course, had she taken her own advice, she probably wouldn't be getting kidnapped by one of the Flintstones right now. Paris has reached the mining colony that he was leaving to fetch help from. They're worried because Voyager is more than a match for what they've got, but Paris lies to them about having a plan. Back on the USS Kazon, Suda arrives at sickbay. We need to try and do something to retake the ship, but there's a problem. This will probably involve violence. Suda struggles with the prospect of undoing all the work he's put into finding peace and rejecting that part of himself. We don't have a great deal of choice though, so allowing that aspect out may be necessary. Speaking of embracing violence, Voyager's ex-crew are making weapons. They've discovered that Kez and Neelix are gone and plan to go after them. Chakotay tracks them down and we try to engage them in diplomacy. Fred Flintstone seems to be trying to perform a trade, but let's call it a cultural exchange so it sounds better. Chakotay declines and insists we need our own people back, which apparently offends some of them. They tried the same trade of Kez for one of them with Neelix, who declines with somewhat less grace than Chakotay. Kez, Neelix and Chakotay try to walk away, which goes as well as you'd expect, and we all leg it, closely followed by the inhabitants of Bedrock carrying pointy sticks. Tuvok opens a second round of diplomatic talks by shooting one of the fuckers with an arrow. It's enough to give us a chance to scarper, but the only viable route is through a sandworm cave. Fred Flintstone and his friends are smart enough to not follow us in. It's not all plain sailing for the USS Kazon either, as they're having some technical difficulties. Seska thinks this strange, as there should have been some indication before the failures, and decides to search for stowaways, just in case. Suda can do a science thing to prevent scans finding him, but we're fast approaching the time when he may have to start fighting back. On the planet, Fred's had a plan to smoke the rescue team out of the caves. Instead, it drives them further in, which isn't ideal as there's some seismic activity going on too. We get a shot of the whole party, giving us an opportunity to play a fun little game. Here are the faces of the 3 party members we don't know, so let's try and guess which one is going to die. Having the black character die is a Hollywood cliché, but this is an important episode, so I suspect they'll put in more effort than just following tropes. 6-1 against. This guy's bland enough to slide off your eyeballs without you noticing, which means he'd be no real loss, but we wouldn't really care either, so his death would have no impact. 3-1 against. Of the 3, this guy's face is the one I was drawn to the most. He also looks like he's currently shitting his pants, so that's where my bet's going. Even money. We enter a cavern with a sandworm in the bottom, complete with perilous ledge to cross. Tuvok says the tactical choice is to slowly file past the giant monster whilst armed with pointy sticks, and, were I in Chakotay's position, I'd instantly demote him. Instead, we follow his advice. While they're offering themselves up to Shai Hulud, Janeway's team is trying to distract Fred Flintstone and friends at the cave entrance. One group throws some sticks, then bravely runs the fuck away, drawing the modern Stone Age family with them. The others run to the cave and drag the burning foliage away from the entrance to stop the smoke. It's a bit late for that, as we're already halfway past the sandworm. The guy my money was on, Sebastian Shitpants, slips and hangs from the ledge. Not for long though, and my bet pays off. Janeway shouts to Chakotay and Tuvok that they've cleared the entrance, and everybody runs back, meaning Sebastian's death was pointless. Worse than pointless, in fact, as the sandworm is now chasing them. Tuvok and Chakotay cause a cave-in with sticks instead of, just leaving, but whatever. Justice for Sebastian or something. Then they all leg it. Back on the USS Kazon, they're crawling through tubes to find Suda. In the sick bay, Paris sends a message to the dock by using a fake Kazon signal to mask his real one. He's on the way back with help, but needs the dock to sabotage a phaser thingy so it kabooms when the attack starts. As the message ends, Suda returns, but he's not alone. He collapses under the weight of the psychological burden this has placed on him, and we're reminded of what this is costing him. While he recovers, Kazon boss and Seska are discussing the search. The scans are being restricted because of the science thingy, but Seska recognizes this as an old Marquis trick. She visits the doc, who manages to convince her that he's the only person on the ship working against her, and that the scan thing was to keep them busy crawling through conduits. He even has a Kazon corpse to prove it. Seska compliments him, then shoots the system projecting him, and he disappears. Shit's going bad on the planet too, despite the mostly successful rescue. Ensign Mum's baby is ill, they're preparing for an attack from the Flintstones, and, oh yeah, it seems they've accidentally made camp on a volcano. To the sick bay again, where Suda exits the conduit he was hiding in. An attempt to summon the doctor fails, but this triggers a message from him. He compliments Suda for his actions and his commitment, and also says that he's left a message for Janeway commending him in case the doc is irreparable, which is a nice touch. Suda had better be up to the challenge as the attack by the miners has begun. They withdraw to a nebula, but we discover this is a part of the plan, as that's where Paris is hiding. Back to the planet, where we find ourselves strolling beside a lava flow. The Flintstones must be near as we hear one of them scream. It seems a member of their party has been trapped by the lava, so Chakotay leaps to the rescue and carries them back. Fred seems happy with this turn of events, and we're friends now, even going so far as to help Ensign Mum's baby with some herbs. Speaking of friends, our allies are drawing the USS Kazon into the nebula. Paris nips out and poops yellow on the belly of the ship, fucking up their shields a little bit. There's pooping inside the ship too, as Suda sneaks into engineering, then Rambos the shit out of all the Kazon there. As he fiddles with the terminal, one of the bodies moves and shoots him in the back. His final act is the sabotage Paris needs. The Kazon detect Paris's shuttle and try to poop at it, but this overloads the system and stuns them all. Seska crawls towards the sound of her baby crying as Kazon boss calls after her. She collapses in front of the child, and it's implied she dies. Kazon Boss comes in afterwards, briefly mourns Seska, then, as Paris and the miners teleport over, grabs the child and orders his people to abandon ship. As an aside, the only teleporter Paris and the miners would have had access to is the emergency teleporter on the shuttle, so I'm not quite sure how he managed to get 4 people from multiple vessels there simultaneously, but maybe he's just really good at it. Paris starts repairs as the Kazon scarper in a shuttle and escape pods. We fly back to the planet and land to pick up the crew. Paris brings Janeway up to speed on what's happened as the dock commands Suda to Tuvok. Chakotay draws a sheet over Seska's face, so I guess that answers that question, and we set a course for home and fly away. End of episode.